What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Opendoor. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what is really moving it and what just came out associated to Opendoor. So I want to go over all of the things that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Opendoor is down 3.1%, 598 the low, 624 the high, but very low volume. So 14.1 million shares being traded. Today, there really hasn't been any macro data points or any news. Especially specific to Opendoor, no official news, no press releases, even though there was some big things that did come out, so I'll kind of go over that in a second. Rather, the market is really looking at what's been happening on two different things. One is just precious metals. So I'm sure some of you may or may not be aware that gold, silver, and copper, many others, are starting to really move higher. And Bitcoin is kind of going the opposite way. So in general, that is a good telltale sign that people's appetite for risk isn't really there. So a lot of speculative stocks aren't really getting the attention that they probably should be deserving. So that's one thing that's really starting to kind of spook the market. Plus, this did come out early this morning. So China hits 20 US firms with sanctions over Taiwan arms sales. So even though directly this doesn't affect most stocks, people are seeing this as the first step to a greater geopolitical issue, because most likely Trump is going to take this in some way very personal. And so most likely the States is going to kind of fire back in some capacity. So at the end of the day, that is exactly what the market is trying, or is kind of coming to the conclusion over. So in general, I do feel like today's sell-off, not just with Opendoor, but the broader market, is largely unjustified. So let me know your general thoughts on that. But there was a couple big things that did come out on the 24th. So my last video, I think it was done on the 23rd. That's where Kaz mentioned that there was going to be most likely near the end of the year a big announcement, because he didn't think based on the holiday that he can actually get it out. But there was surprisingly two things that was posted after the market closed on the 24th. One was this right here. So Opendoor checkout and therefore Heroes home credit is now live in Kansas and Missouri, in addition to Texas. So in case you don't know, I believe this is about up to a $4,000 credit for anyone kind of military and vets and so forth. So I think in general, this is good. I don't know if this is the big launch that Kaz was kind of mentioning. The only other thing, and actually on a side note, this is the timestamp. So at 12:47, market closed at 1 o'clock. So roughly around 13 minutes before the market closed, he kind of put this out. And then aside from that, though, there was this. So he posted this at 1:20 p.m. So we've rolled out a new Cash Plus experience as of today in a test. I'm very optimistic, but we need to measure impact before going 100%. Most likely this is the big launch that he was kind of talking about. So this is good. It'd be more hopefully beneficial if he was to kind of elaborate on exactly what this new Cash Plus test is and where it's being tested and kind of things along those lines. But nonetheless, this goes to show that Kaz and the management team behind the scenes are constantly working on new products, new launches, and things like that. So let me know your general thoughts. I would have anticipated with this update, as well as the Heroes home credit, that would in theory kind of increase demand a little bit and maybe push Opendoor higher, but clearly the market has other plans. Aside from that, though, shorts are increasing about 44,000 shares, so nothing too crazy. 15.05% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 117 million shares overall are being shorted. So you still see some signs of naked shorting occurring with Opendoor, which is crazy. I know there's a lot of cult-like stocks like AMC, GameStop. Those people have been screaming about naked shorting for, like, I feel like years and years, and they've been begging for some sort of proof. I don't know if they have actually gotten any proof, but nonetheless, there is right now more shares being shorted, so 117 mil versus that on loan, which is only 85. That shouldn't be occurring. So again, it's if AMC and GameStop investors got a hold of this information, then I'm sure they would be jumping up and down for joy that one stock is actually showing that there's naked shorting occurring. So definitely shows some sketchiness is happening. Looking at the options, 1.28 million in calls, 422,000 in puts, and then 58% of all the options being done are bullish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around between that 6 to 650 by the end of today, and then it looks like for it to be kind of around that $7 and above in the foreseeable future. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 550 to 6. Aside from that, with today being Friday, just take notice of this. So these are all the open interest. So with it right now at 6 and change, so we have 4,000 at that $6 strike price, 24,000 at the 650, and I think it's fair to assume that it won't be a $7 and above. So just kind of keep notice of that 650 for today. Aside from that though, these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So it actually goes to show that institutions are largely buying the Opendoor dip, with the exception of, I guess, 3, 154, 140, and then 103. Those ones are sells. Everything else is a buy. These are all the transactions occurring on the Darkpool above $100,000, and given the fact that shorts aren't really doing all that much, it is fair to assume that most of this is actually linked to hedge funds. Hedge funds are going to be fairly active over the next little bit because they will be rebalancing as Q4 does kind of near its end. So anticipate more activity on the Darkpool rather than anything over the next couple of trading days. Right now with it at 609 though, it is trading right below this S1. So best case scenario, Soundhound does kind of get bought up and closes above that 613. But most likely today we're going to be seeing overall kind of low volume, and that is just because of Christmas being yesterday. So Merry Christmas to all of you that celebrate and so forth. But a lot of institutions tend to take the following day off, so this is why we're going to be seeing kind of low volume throughout the whole day. But nonetheless, it really does need to kind of fight back and close above that 613 if you're going to see more of a kind of technical recovery. And then 594 is going to be that next strong support, kind of bounce off of that general range. So the low for today, 598 so far. So we'll kind of have to wait and see how things do play out. Aside from all of that though, on the actual chart, things don't look that great. You see a lot of social and influencers on Twitter and whatever saying that this is a epic chart, that we're going to see kind of a massive move higher. I'm not here to BS you. I'm not here to say and hype you up, or I'm not here to bring you down, but this chart definitely doesn't look good. The only positive thing about this right now is that stochastic RSI is very oversold. So again, a good piece of news or PR, then you could see some buying, but there's a lot of different moving parts, as what I even mentioned in this video. There's a lot of different macro things. There's a lot of specific to Opendoor, all trying to move the price, but this right now isn't looking that great. It is below that white line right there. So that's the 10-day moving average, really a good kind of sign for momentum. Aside from that, you have the 100-day moving average, and then the blue line, the 50. 50 is a very big deal for Opendoor and a lot of more growth stocks. So nonetheless, this chart doesn't look that great, but it's not down and out just yet. But from the market position, you see a lot more willing sellers now than buyers. So things kind of have been more turning bearish behind the scenes. So let me know your thoughts on Opendoor. Are you buying? Are you selling? What's your general thoughts on what Kaz mentioned? Do you think those are pretty good catalysts, or do you think it's just fluff? What's your general thoughts? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.